I'm going to show you how you can start your own blog. I'm going to talk you through all the steps to make it super simple. So welcome to the Looking After Your Pennies YouTube channel. My name is Charlotte Jessup. Now I have had a blog for 3 years. So Looking After Your Pennies is about 3 years old now. I had a couple of other blogs before then, and I've got a couple of other smaller ones running now. So I am familiar with how to set up a blog and I know how to do it quickly. I actually wrote a blog post that you might find super helpful, and it's called How to Create a Blog in 24 Hours, and I have put the link in the description below. But if you're the sort of person that likes to see this in video form, then you are in luck, because I'm going to show you exactly how you can create a blog, how you can do it super easily and super quickly, and have content and have your blog up and running within just a few hours. So let me show you. Now, the kind of preliminary action you need to do is actually to decide what you want your blog to be about. So you need to think about the sort of content that you want to write about. You need it to be something that you are passionate about, something that you have the motivation to write a lot of things about. You're going to need to create really good quality and valuable content on your website. So you need to make sure that you feel that you are sufficiently knowledgeable in this subject, and you're going to need to be willing to write about this week after week after week. So don't pick something that is super niche and there's only like 2 things that is possible to write about it, but also don't go really broad so that you're writing about all sorts of various things. It's good to have a bit of a focus and have it be a topic that you actually like and you actually feel like you could talk about regularly, frequently, and with some level of confidence. Once you've done all of that, you're going to need to think about the name, and that's what's going to lead us into the first key step. So number 1 is you need to choose a domain name. So this is like your website. So for Looking After Your Pennies, it's lookingafteryourpennies.com. Obviously, there are lots of different websites. So you have facebook.com. These are all domain names, and that's where people are going to type in so that they land on your website. Now I buy my domain names through a company called Namecheap because they're cheap and they're super quick and I know how to use them now. So Namecheap is a place where you can buy domain names, and if you land on their page you will see a box where you can type in the domain name that you're looking for. Now, before you go ahead and you buy a particular name, it's worth checking to see whether other people are using that name and whether it's actually something you want to be associated with. So you don't want to buy a particular website name and then realize that somebody else has a company running under that name. So have a look around. Check for things like trademarks, check for things like Instagram and other social media channels to see if other people are already operating under that name. Once you've got an idea in mind, play around with it, see if it's available. Now, I recommend that you stick to yourblogName.com or .co.uk, or the kind of like suffix that works in your particular country. Don't go for particularly complicated ones like .net or .xyz. All of these might be particularly cheap, but you want to keep it super simple for people to find you. The other thing to consider is like super long names are not going to work. People need something that is fairly quick for them to type in and is fairly memorable. So if you're thinking of writing like a short paragraph as your domain name, then maybe have a rethink. Can you cut it down to maybe 3 or 4 words so that it makes it simple for people to remember and easy to type in too? Once you've done that, you can add it to your basket, you can buy that domain name. You might want to buy things like the .com version and the .co.uk version if it's something you're looking to make into a viable business going forwards. This gives you some element of protection over that particular name, and it stops other people from buying it and trying to create an account that's similar to yours and using your name. So number 2 is to get some web hosting. So you need to get web hosting. So not WordPress hosting, even though we're going to use WordPress, but really super simple, cheap web hosting. Now, the company that I recommend for beginners is SiteGround, and I'll drop a link to that in the description. The great thing about SiteGround is they make it super easy. Their customer service is great. They have various levels of packages, and they're cheap. So it's a really great choice for somebody that's starting out. They have 3 main packages. They have their Startup, their Grow Big, and their Go Geek. If you're just looking to run one website, then you can probably just go with the Startup. If you're looking to run multiple websites, then you might want to look at some of their other packages, which allow you to have multiple websites on the same web hosting package. Again, it's just a case of signing up to this, filling in your details. You can choose the length of the term. I typically go for about a year, but if you're thinking of committing to this, you might want to go for maybe 2 or 3 years, because then it reduces the costs overall. Now, you need to think of your hosting as kind of like the place where you're going to build your website. This is where you're going to store it, and this is where you're going to design it. There's no actual like building and design stuff that goes on here, but this is just the place where your website is kept. So it's your own little slice of the internet where you're going to be building your website. With that all set up, you then just kind of need to link your domain name and this website together, and you can do that by changing the name servers. If you want more information about that, then I recommend you check out the blog post that is in the description, because I give all the details exactly how you can do that. So step number 3 is to set up the website. So you do this through SiteGround, and again, you'll be linking your domain name and you're going to be setting up a new website. At the moment, your domain name is empty, so people type that in and they will see nothing. But we want to actually create something in that space. So you want to install WordPress. Now, the reason we use WordPress is that it's super easy to use, and it's got lots of different features that you can change, lots of plugins, and you can do all sorts on WordPress. There are other website building platforms such as Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, all these different things. I've been using WordPress for a long time now. I like it, and lots of other people in the blogging community are using it too, because it's got so much flexibility, and there's lots of other different things that you can add to it if you want to change it in the future. It can take a little bit of time to get used to, but if you're new to the world of blogging and you know no different, then this could be perfect for you. Step number 4, this is kind of where it gets exciting, and we're going to create a logo. So this is more than just creating the particular logo, it's also about giving your brand some style and some design. A lot goes into the logo, so you need to think about the colors you're going to use, things like the fonts you're going to use, and how you want to describe your website. Now you have a couple of options here. You can do it yourself, and for that I recommend using Canva. There's a free version of Canva, and you can even get a free trial on their pro version, which gives you access to even more tools and features and things like that. And you can design your logo there. They have different elements, you can put little pictures in, different fonts, all sorts of things like that that enable you to have some flexibility around your logo. I have some smaller websites where I've designed the logos myself, and I think they look perfectly fine for startup websites. However, if you want a bit more professionalism in your website, then you might want to look at getting some sort of graphic designer to do this for you. A great place to look is Fiverr. There are lots of people on there that design logos for super cheap. The Looking After Your Pennies logo was purchased through Fiverr. I think I paid about £25 for it, so it's not hugely expensive, and I think it looks pretty good. You just need to have a clear idea of the sort of things you want, the sorts of colours that you want, and the kind of message that you want your logo to convey. So have a think about that. Either design your own or speak to somebody about designing it for you. So number 5 is actually about designing your website. Now in the blog post that I've mentioned, I go through step by step what you need to type in and what you need to click. You need to do this largely through the actual WordPress side of your website. So once you set this all up through your hosting, whether this is on SiteGround, you then need to type in your domain name and then go /WP-admin. Once you've typed that in, that will take you to kind of like what we call the back end of your website. And this is where you can create your posts, you create your pages, and you do all of the design elements. There will be a section within your WordPress dashboard that says appearance, and you can customize exactly what your website looks there. You will need to get some sort of theme to start off with, and there are loads of free WordPress themes. I have some favourites, and they're all listed in the blog post that I mentioned, so go and have a look at the ones that I recommend, or just have a look and find one that suits you. You can choose a free one for now, and then you can upgrade for a paid version and get some more features, some more custom elements later on. Also, within this appearance section is you'll be able to change things like the colour of the fonts, the style of the fonts, the different menus. You'll be able to look at how the pages are laid out, things like the sidebar on your website, all of these things. So you need to spend a fair amount of time tweaking this. If your aim is to just get your website up and running and live, then aim to spend just like an hour tweaking this and sorting out the colours. You don't need it to be perfect when you launch it, you just need it to be functional and ready to go. You're also going to need to add in a few things like pages. So you're going to need an about page, which explains a bit about you, the creator, gives people a bit of a background around your expertise, who you are, and why they should take your website seriously. You might want to give them a contact page so you can set up an email address through SiteGround that links to your website. So for example, my email address is charlotte@lookingafteryourpennies.com, and you can do the same for your website too. You can then link this to your contact page. So you can create a contact form on your webpage, and then you can just have people send you a message there. So let's say there's a brand that wants you to write something about them, they can contact you through that contact form. Or let's say somebody just wants you to give you some fab feedback, that's what the contact form is for. So it's good to have a page set up for that. You can do that page through the main WordPress dashboard. Just click pages, add new, and you can set up your page there. Again, I do a lot of templates and bits and pieces like that you can simply copy and paste for your website in that blog post that I've mentioned before. Another important thing that you want to consider is having a legal page. So this will include things like the terms and conditions for using your website, certain things like, oh, I'm not going to take responsibility if you use this information and then go off and do something stupid. It's also things like your cookie policy and your privacy policy too. Feel free to go and check out my website to get an idea of the sort of things you might like to include. But if you look on pretty much any blog or website, you will see the sort of things that people are including. There are lots of great websites out there that can create these things for you. So go and check those out so you can just have this page set up. It's good to have this because it protects you and it gives your users and visitors some clarity around what to expect from your website. Once your website is all set up and it's looking pretty, then it is time to add some content. Now, if you're just looking to get your website live and create some content, then I've got a super simple structure for you to use. The first thing you need to do is to create 3 or 4 categories that relate to your website. So if you take a look at Looking After Your Pennies, you will see that I have 3 major categories. These are saving money, making money, and eco-friendly living. And I try and categorize all of my content into one of those 3 categories. Now, you might want to do the same. So think of 3 or 4 things that are the main pillars of your blog, of your website, and then try and think of maybe 3 or 4 articles that you can write that falls under each of those categories. So think of some titles, things that you want to write in each of those. Those will give you your headings that are going to form your articles. Now, for each of your articles, you want them to be about 500 words long as a minimum. Obviously, the longer the articles are, the better chance they stand of doing on Google. But for now, we're just looking to actually have a website that we can get out into the world. I then recommend you break down that 500 words into 3, 4, or even 5 subsections. So think about subheadings that would fit. So let's say you were writing about places to visit in Sydney. You might then want to list the subheadings as the 4 or 5 places that you recommend people visit in Sydney. Then you would aim to write 80 to 100 words about each of those places. By the time you've done that, plus an introduction and maybe a conclusion as well, you're likely to have your 500 words that you need for your article. Then you can head back to Canva, you can get some images from there that you can add to your webpage, publish it, and there's your first article live. Do that another 9-10 times. You have a fairly fleshed out blog and website that you can put out into the public space. You can then start sharing it with your friends, your family, and anybody else that you might want to read these things. And slowly, search engines will start to pick up on it and share your content with the world. So that's it. That's a super simple guide to creating your first blog. It's not tricky. There's simple steps that you can take. And like I said, go check out that article where I've got this all written down with lots of screenshots that you used in today and a whole lot of additional information about the sort of plugins you might want to add and any additional pages that you might need, as well as some bits and pieces that you can copy and paste into your own website. I hope you found this useful today. Let me know in the comments and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Do feel free to check out my other social channels. I'm at Looking After Your Pennies on Instagram and TikTok, or you can visit my website or drop me an email at charlotte@lookingafteryourpennies.com. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.